The number one most important component of any good FPS player is their aim. Being able to aim efficiently and effectively allows you to kill enemies that have an advantage over you. For example, if an enemy was behind cover, or in this case, shooting you from behind.
Your trash, kid.
It will allow you to fight another threat much quicker. For example, if a third party comes from behind, the faster you subdue the original opponent, the faster you can start handling the third party.
Yeah, baby.
Now, this video isn't on why aiming is important. Everyone already knows that. This video is the first video in a series I'm creating called 5 Weeks to Aim Guide. This series will act as an experiment to show you how fast you can upgrade your aim just by being consistent over 5 weeks. The plan is to play my KovaaK's aim tracking routine 3 times a day. This is around 45 minutes of practice every day, but the plan is I won't skip a single day for 5 weeks. There are 4 different practice modes within this routine, and they go as follows: bounce 180 tracking, pat target switch, box target switch, and close strafes easy. Now taking a look at bounce 180 tracking. It's a game where multiple bouncing red balls spawn on the screen. These balls have changing speeds depending on what they collide with as they are bouncy. This sporadic yet predictable movement forces you to concentrate on tracking the target on both the X and Y axis of your mouse pad. This practice game is good for forcing you to adjust to a target's velocity. They are predictably moving targets similar to in-game situations like a person driving a vehicle, a jumping player, or a player dropping from height. The bounce 180 results from week 1 of the experiment have been very solid. I had an average score of 62.7 for the week, which is pretty solid in comparison to my scores from the past. I ended up having a max score of 73, which I'm happy with. It'll definitely be a tough PR for me to beat in upcoming weeks, but I'm looking forward to see how much better I can get at it. In Pet Target Switch, there are multiple player-looking targets that move only on the Y-axis, but can be placed at 3 different platform heights. Headshots do the most damage, but are much harder to hit. Your gun has a clip size, so you have to be precise with your shots, instead of just holding down the trigger. So at times it can be risky for you to go for a headshot, as it might cause you to reload. I like this challenge because it's good for tracking moving, unpredictable targets. It forces you to pick a body part to shoot, head or body, and helps you start building the habit to aim at the upper half of a body instead of just aiming at the target in general. It's mostly Y-axis training, but you have to be very precise with the X-axis movements that you make. This has been a tough challenge for me this week. I've had a few decent games resulting in 15k plus scores, but nothing really close to my old PRs from when I practiced with this aim trainer nearly a year ago. I ended up having an average score this week of 13,542, which is lower than I'd have liked, but that's why we practice. Shouldn't be too hard to bring that average up. Overall, I think these results show why I've been fairly inconsistent in COD lately, but hopefully that'll change with practice. In Vox Target Switch, there are slow-moving red balls that are placed at multiple different heights, but only move about the X-axis quite slowly. They can be much smaller from a distance, forcing you to be precise, but having the balls be so spread out means you also need to be able to acquire targets far apart quickly. It's good for practicing fighting/tracking enemies at varying distances. It's the most beneficial for practicing for fights when you're fighting from cover to cover at some distance. It's all about keeping your crosshair/cursor on target instead of frantically moving the mouse to catch up with someone's movement. I was blown away by the progress I made in a week by playing this challenge. Ended up setting a new PR for myself with an 86. My average is also super solid as well with a 79.8. Definitely seeing an improvement in game with my longer ranged engagements, especially in those cover to cover scenarios. I just feel like I have a lot better control of my micro adjustments and they're just way more on point. Close strafes is quite possibly the most frustrating challenge of all 4 challenges. In this challenge, a red target will spawn in with an audible noise. It will then randomly move around the X-plane, forcing you to react with every movement the target makes. Once the target is destroyed, there's a slight delay before the next target is spawned, and it's spawned in the middle of the 4 walls at random. You have to use sound to acquire your next target as soon as possible. It's great for practicing close-range tracking in buildings or just in close proximity in general. It's great for acquiring a target from noise and then immediately tracking them after. It's also super useful for keeping enemies within your camera. One of the worst things that can happen to you in a gunfight is if an enemy breaks your camera and gets behind you. If you find yourself losing to a player with aim assist in different games, this would be a good challenge to get good at, as it counteracts their aim assist. Had a really good first week in this scenario. I was able to set my new high score of 9,000, as well as an average score of 8,100, which is a big improvement from the last time I practiced this challenge. This challenge really showcases that I still struggle greatly with close range tracking engagements. However, it's definitely much better than it used to be. I'd really like to see my average come up closer to 9,000 in the coming weeks, as I can see that having a big impact on my gameplay. And that's going to do it for week 1 of this aim training experiment. The big takeaway that I learned from this week would be just focusing on aiming with your eyes. So instead of focusing on what your hands are doing on your mouse or on your controller, just focusing on aiming at your target, picking a head or a body part, and just aiming at that, instead of just focusing on what your hands are doing. With these different practice scenarios, what you're really trying to accomplish is building that mind-muscle connection between your eyes and your hands, so that you can just focus on looking at your target, so that when you're playing the game, you're not worried about aiming with your hand, you're just looking at what you want to aim at and hitting your target, essentially. So me personally, I'm already seeing huge Warzone payoffs. I've struggled to hit more than 20 kills for probably like the past 6 months. And then just in the past week from starting this aim practice challenge, I've already dropped 220 bombs. So super excited with that. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching week 1 of the experiment. If you like this kind of content and you want to see some of my Warzone gameplay, click the subscribe button below, as I will be posting upcoming episodes of this experiment and future Warzone gameplays. Thank you so much for watching again. Have a good rest of your day. Peace!